Do you remember the coach named Chip Kelly? Once upon a time, he was one of the most diabolical offensive minds in football. Defenses would hate playing against this man and would even fake injuries just to slow his offense down. It all started in 2007 when he became the offensive coordinator for the Oregon Ducks and later the head coach from 2009 to 2012. Kelly was responsible for the highly explosive no-huddle offense, which posted some insanely impressive numbers, which included a 46-7 record, averaged 43.6 points per game, and averaged around 15 seconds at its fastest play-by-play snap. In 2013, Chip Kelly decided to go to the big leagues, and he signed a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just ended their season 4-12 and wanted to move on from beloved and longtime head coach Andy Reid. So they went and got the most trendy and successful coach in college football at the moment. And the football world wanted to know if Chip Kelly's explosive, fast-paced offense could survive in the modern NFL landscape.
Eagles, Chip Kelly bringing that fast break Oregon offense. First quarter, the Eagles opening drive. Michael Vick to Riley Cooper. And this offense for the Eagles is moving, weren't they, Warren?
The first game of the season against the Washington Redskins was a perfect start. By halftime, they had 53 plays ran to the Washington Redskins 21. It was the most plays in a half in 15 years. They won 33-27, and they were faster than people expected. But by week 5, they were 1-3, and Michael Vick just went down with an injury. And out came future Philadelphia legend Saint Nick, aka Nick Foles. And the injury of Michael Vick did scare some fans because Chip Kelly was known for having these mobile quarterbacks. At Oregon, his quarterback was Marcus Mariota. But the offense continued to deliver as Nick Foles had his best season ever, going for 27 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. The Eagles won 7 of their last 8 games, but lost by a heartbreak to the Saints in the divisional round. I mean, people really thought Chip Kelly was the savior. LaShawn McCoy led the league in rushing, Deshaun Jackson had over 1,300 receiving yards, Nick Foles came out of nowhere and exploded in the NFL, and then you had 6 more wins than last year and lost in the divisional round with a backup quarterback. You can't get any better than that. By the end of the season, sports journalists and football analysts believed Kelly was going to bring Philadelphia a Super Bowl, but that all quickly faded away. In April 2014, their first offseason led by Kelly, he released Deshaun Jackson, the guy who just had 80+ receptions and over 1,300 yards. Fans weren't too happy with that, but that wasn't enough to derail the hype train that Chip Kelly had at the moment. In the 2014 NFL Draft, Chip apparently derailed the scouting department's picks and decided that some players were just not getting drafted, which is fine, but their draft was a complete failure. Out of the 7 picks, only wide receiver Jordan Matthews made a difference for the team, providing some big moments for the team in a solid 3 seasons. In the 2014 season, the Eagles started off hot like people expected. They were 3-0, scoring over 30 points in each game. Their offense was still fast, explosive, with Darren Sproles and Jeremy Maclin really filling into the offense. But by week 9, another massive injury occurred, and Nick Foles went down with a collarbone injury. And who was the backup quarterback? Mr. Butt Fumble himself, Mark Sanchez. The Eagles went 5-4 with Mark Sanchez and proceeded to miss the playoffs by just 1 game, but they still had 10 wins. So honestly, you can't even knock them for that. And the offense still finished 3rd in points per game and top 5 in yards per game. And this kind of brainwashed fans because they looked at it and said, well, our starting quarterback got injured and then Mark Sanchez came in and I didn't really expect much from Mark Sanchez. So Chip Kelly, you're doing perfectly fine. But what happened in 2015 was downright disgusting to the Philadelphia Eagles franchise as a whole. When the 2014 season ended, Vice President Howie Roseman fired Tom Gamble, who was Chip Kelly's brought-in Vice President of Player Personnel. And this angered Chip. He went to owner Jeff Lurie himself and asked for a demotion of Roseman, which led to Chip Kelly getting full control of the roster. And that's when the real horror began. He traded Nick Foles for Sam Bradford. LaShawn McCoy was traded for Kiko Alonso. He let Jeremy Maclin go, who just had a 1,300-yard season. Longtime defensive end Trent Cole was released. To replace McCoy, he also signs DeMarco Murray to a 5-year, $42 million contract, and cornerback Byron Maxwell was given a 6-year, $63 million contract. It was safe to say that the 2015 season was a complete disaster. They finished 7-9, the offense became super predictable, and the run game was being totally forgotten. I mean, they paid DeMarco Murray all this money, and he wasn't given the rushes he deserved, and eventually got benched for Darren Sproles. Before the final game of the season, Chip Kelly was fired since I guess Jeff Lurie was just tired of him and his monumentally bad at everything performance. It was later found by former players that he was an awful communicator, felt uncomfortable around certain players, and even called racist. which some players did say was not true of his character. In the next season as the 49ers head coach, they finished 2-14, and he was pretty much gone from the NFL, and the big leagues have seen enough of him. His fast-paced offense was only seen in bursts. His communication skills and culture he presented to the team was heavily disliked by most. And his decisions regarding player personnel were downright awful. I will say his RPO concepts are still very prevalent in today's NFL and were groundbreaking for the time being. And he will be remembered for that. Sports Nerd Marty is out.